So it's been 3 weeks of robotics build season, and my team's marketing's feeling pretty good. But it's been a process to get where we are now, and we're still working on improvements every single day. So in this video, I'm going to break down what my team has done so far to overcome the common pitfalls that most robotics teams fall into. Now, the main focus for me going into this season was primarily making sure that my team doing their marketing was consistent and we didn't fall off the rails by missing posts or forgetting to make content and putting it out there on a regular cadence. And so one of the very first things that I did was create a content schedule and create a tracker that held us accountable for making sure that we posted on time on the days that we said we were going to. I think this has been really, really important and really helpful for my team, especially at least for me, making sure that, again, we know what's coming up. Now, in all honesty, I have not been the best at posting things on the day that they're supposed to go out. I have a really hard time outside of practice getting down to my office and being on the computer, getting things scheduled. So sometimes things would go out the next day. You know, for example, we're supposed to post it on Wednesday and I would post it on Thursday. So overall, we've had about 55% of our posts be on time and about 45% of our posts be late by about a day. But you know, even only being one day behind on posts is not the end of the world. I would rather that we're at least posting a day late than not posting at all, or, you know, going a whole week where we haven't posted anything. Now, because this primarily falls on me to do, seeing as my students don't have access to our team's social media pages, I'm going to be changing up some things to make sure that I stay consistent with our posts. Now, because I have such a hard time getting down to my computer, I'm going to start scheduling probably on Saturday or Sunday. I'll probably just go into the back end of Facebook or the Meta Business Suite and schedule posts to go out on the days that I know they're going to be going out, or at least making drafts on the back end. That way, from my phone, I can just simply go into Meta Business Suite and then just make the post and hit the button to publish, rather than having to write the caption and upload the content and then get it checked over. This, I think, is going to make it at least more consistent on my end, just so that way I'm not manually having to post on all these days where things are supposed to go out. Now, if you're a team that also is struggling with keeping your schedule and posting things on the days that you're supposed to, this could be helpful for you. That way, you know that they're already ready to go out and they're going to go out, because you can just set it and forget it.
Yeah, it was just a really cool moment.
Now, while keeping our schedule on track was like the number one thing that I really wanted to do well this year, it's actually not the only thing that's really important. And this second thing is something that most teams really struggle with, especially mine. But I'm trying to make them better at doing this, because it does make your marketing a lot easier if you do this on a consistent basis. Now, what I'm talking about here is actually brainstorming ideas and creating an idea bank of content so that we always have something that we know what we can make, and we're not ever going to have a time where we're kind of unsure what to do or we're scrambling to try to put something together. So what I've done is create this tab on our schedule where anytime an idea pops into anybody's heads, they can go in, they can write down the idea that they have, maybe the title of what the post or video would be, a short little description of what it would be about. And then there's a ranking system where they can essentially rank how good they think this idea is from 1 to 5, or favorite it, and assign ownership. So that way we know whose idea it is and who should own probably making this post or this piece of content. If we favorite it, it will put it in the top in this top section of our schedule. So we have 5 slots essentially for favorited things. And that's just because if we are really, really interested in making it, it just keeps it at the forefront of our minds because it's at the top and it doesn't get buried in the whole list below of all the other ideas that we may potentially have already written down. So if you're a team that also struggles with ideation or coming up with things to post about, I'd recommend creating some kind of idea bank, whether it's on paper or, again, an Excel sheet or Google or a Word doc, just so that way you can write down ideas when they pop into your head, and just as many things you can think of. One thing that I like to do is kind of give myself some constraints. One, for example, that I used this past week with one of my students was to have them sit down for 10 minutes and use the constraint of how robotics has made me blank, and just fill in the blank for as many times as you can in a 10-minute period. So examples could be how robotics has made me more creative, how robotics has made me smarter. Obviously, the list is endless, but just simply by doing this, you're going to have a lot of ideas, and you can just pick whichever ones you think are good and then make content out of them. One of the biggest struggles that so far my team has really had in these last 3 weeks is editing our weekly recap videos before they're due. So every week we make a weekly recap video and we put it out on Saturday, which most teams are doing something similar to this, whether it's a video or some kind of recap with a bunch of pictures. But what would happen is that we would not really work on much of it throughout the week. Saturday would come and then we would have to edit this whole video from scratch. And that was taking us, 3 to 7 hours essentially. And we weren't able to finish it on the day it was supposed to be finished, or we would take all day to do it. And for the first 2 weeks, I would have to step in and edit it from beginning to end just to make sure that we got it out on time, because I can edit faster than my students can. So what I really wanted to do was focus on editing that video in the middle of the week, like Wednesday or Thursday, to get it started, maybe about 60 to 70% done. And then going into Saturday morning, we maybe only had like 30% left to edit, and then we could have it done by, maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon and put it out there. And so week 3 was the first week where we were able to get that video done and edited in the afternoon by a student. And part of the reason why that helped is because we structured it in the week. Now, we still did put that video mostly together on Saturday, so it still wasn't really edited as much during the week as I wanted it to be, but I'm still happy that we were able to do a little bit of pre-planning so that it wasn't such a scramble on Saturday, and especially that I didn't have to step in and help my team finish it, and instead one of my students was able to take the reins and finish it instead. So with all these ideas that we've been brainstorming and making sure that we've been keeping our schedule consistent, we actually kind of ran into this weird scenario where we actually have more things that we want to post about and make than we had days that we had scheduled. So our schedule has been Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, with Monday being an impact post, Wednesday being a community or people post, and then Saturday being our progress posts or our weekly recaps. But we were finding that we found all of these really fun ideas of videos and things to make that we wanted to put out there, some of which were just kind of pure entertainment, and they didn't really fall under any of the buckets that we had already pre-planned. And so what we actually did was we added another day to our schedule. So now we're going to be posting on Fridays as our Fun Friday post, where it's just going to be a fun post of some entertaining video or fun skit or something, because it allows my students to sort of flex their creative muscles. And it also is, I think, important to put content out there for your team that isn't necessarily robotics specifically related, because it attracts people outside of the robotics space. And then from there, they may decide to start looking at your other content, realize you're a robotics team, and then start following you because they like the robotics stuff as well. And so I wanted to make sure that we were also putting content out there that could potentially just grow our audience, which kind of entertainment posts are really good at doing, especially if you find trends that have gone viral or that have done really well on, other social media pages that you found. And so we're going to try to utilize that a little bit more this year, just to make sure that we continue to grow our following. And of course, introduce robotics to people who don't know what robotics is really all about. Now, some of the posts that we've been making have done pretty well, and some haven't done so well. But one of the things that I've been doing is actually taking all of the data from our Facebook, our Instagram, and our YouTube, and pulling them into reports, and then going through to see which ones have got the most views, the most likes, the most comments, the most shares, the most reactions, and actually tracking those for the month of January. Seeing as we're now going into February, I think it's important to kind of see how well the last month went in terms of our marketing, and then we can kind of give ourselves the goal of how do we beat this, right? I mean, how do we do better in February than we did in January? And the only way to do that is we need to know how well we did, right? By looking at these metrics. Now, if your team hasn't ever pulled reports from your social media pages before, I would highly recommend that you do this at least once. And I would say probably just pull it for the last year so you can see what are the posts that you've made that have done really, really well, and what are the types of things that your audience likes to see from your team. That way you can make more of those types of posts going forward. But even if we get more views or more likes or more comments or shares on our content, that doesn't necessarily translate to things that our team really wants, like more sponsorships or more funding. So with that being said, one of the things that I want to continue to improve on, and especially as we continue to progress through the competition season into week 4, is starting to track metrics that are more specific about goals for the team. So for example, I'd like my team to start reaching out to sponsors more frequently and tracking how many sponsors we've reached out to this week, or how many responses we got back if we are cold emailing or something like that. I think it's important to not only, of course, track the vanity metrics like views and likes and comments, but it's really important to track these metrics that really have an impact on your team's funding and longevity. Now, I'm not an expert when it comes to tracking these kind of metrics, so I do have to do a little bit of research to get better and educate myself. But I'm hoping that by the end of week 4 or 5, I can have some metrics that I can utilize to make sure that our marketing for our robotics team is actually helping to bring in more funding and again sponsors for our team. So that way going into the 2027 season, we're going to be even bigger than we were in 2026. So these are all the things that I have learned so far from my team these past 3 weeks for competition season. And I'm hoping that you gain something value out of this video from seeing the things that my team's doing, and hopefully you can utilize some of those things in your own team's marketing. I'll continue to have more recaps as we go through the competition season into weeks 4, 5, and 6. But if you're curious about learning more about marketing and robotics, I would go check out this video here next. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.